You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You stop bending your truth just to fit into the shape someone else wants you to be. You realize that most people are not responding to you. They are responding to their fears, their limits, their unhealed places. And suddenly, everything starts to make sense. People understand you from the level they've reached. A person who has never known courage will call bravery reckless. Someone who has never healed will call boundaries selfish. Someone who has never grown will say you're changing too much. None of this says anything about your character, worth, or destiny. It speaks about the borders of their mind. This is why it is dangerous to live your life for the approval of others. Their approval is built on ceilings they've placed on themselves. Their judgments are shaped by what they believe is possible. Their doubts come from the limitations they have accepted in their own life. If they can't imagine becoming stronger, they will doubt your strength. If they can't picture overcoming fears, they will question your courage. And if they cannot see themselves rising, they will be uncomfortable watching you rise. But just because someone cannot understand your journey does not mean you are on the wrong path. It means they have not walked far enough in their own. You are allowed to grow beyond what others believe you should be. You are allowed to dream bigger than what others can comprehend. You are allowed to leave the limits, expectations, and small boxes they prepared for you. People will always have something to say. Be silent, they'll call it weakness. Speak up, they'll call it arrogance. Move forward, they'll say you changed. Stay the same, they'll say you're not growing. Try your best, they'll say it's not enough. Do nothing, they'll ask why you're not trying. Their opinions do not flow from your reality. They flow from their inability to see beyond what they themselves have known. Most people are not reacting to who you are. They are reacting to who they think you are. And that image is filtered through their experiences, their pain, their upbringing, their fears, their assumptions, and limitations. You can't live your life responding to reflections that were never about you. There will be people who try to place limits on your dreams simply because they have quit on their own. There will be people who tell you to be realistic because they themselves stop believing in possibilities. There will be people who label you too much, too emotional, too ambitious, and too different because they cannot comprehend a life lived outside the mold they were given. But hear this with your whole heart. Their limits are not your boundaries. Their opinions are not your identity. Identity comes from the inside. It forms when you learn who you are beyond what people expect. It strengthens when you trust your voice more than their noise. It deepens when you stop performing for validation and start living in alignment with your truth. Identity grows when you honor yourself. And once you accept this truth, something powerful happens. You stop taking things personally. The comments that once hurt you start sounding like echoes of someone else's fears. The judgments that once discouraged you start revealing more about the one speaking than the one being spoken about. You begin to see the projections clearly, and your heart learns to stay steady. Another will call it arrogance. They are all describing the same person, you, but their interpretations come from them, not the truth of who you are. Grounding yourself in your own identity is essential. Because if you keep adjusting who you are based on what others think, you will lose yourself trying to please people who don't know themselves. You will drain your life trying to satisfy minds already made up. You will shrink your purpose to fit places never meant to hold your greatness. But when you truly know yourself, the opinions of others lose their power. You start walking with a quiet confidence, a calmness rooted in truth, not approval. You stop chasing validation because the only opinion that defines you is the one you hold about yourself. And even that opinion must grow as you evolve. Some people will only understand your worth once the world recognizes it. Others will never see it, no matter how brightly you shine. None of that has anything to do with your identity. Your identity is shaped by your character, actions, growth, intentions, resilience, heart. You owe it to yourself to live boldly, grow fully, become holy without waiting for the world to agree with your journey. You owe it to yourself to break free from the cage of other people's comfort zones. Your truth does. You are not who they think you are. You are who you decide to become. The world becomes a different place when you stop trying to live for the reflection in someone else's eyes and start living for the reflection in your own soul. Your growth is not meant to be understood by everyone, and that's okay. It's natural. Growth is a deeply personal journey. No two people evolve in the same way, at the same pace, with the same lessons, or for the same reasons. When you begin to change, when you step into a version of yourself that your past self only dreamed of, you will quickly discover not everyone around you will clap for you. Not everyone will recognize the work you're doing. Not everyone will understand why you're shedding old habits, distancing from certain people, or walking away from what no longer aligns. Growth is not a public performance. It is not meant to be validated, explained, or justified. Your healing, your elevation, your transformation. These are internal shifts that can't always be translated into words. Some people will misinterpret your silence. Some will question your decisions. Some will feel uncomfortable watching you change because your evolution highlights the parts of themselves they haven't worked on yet. You become a mirror they aren't ready to face, and instead of applauding your growth, they may distance themselves. But that doesn't make your growth wrong. It makes it real. The path of personal growth often becomes lonely, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something right. You're choosing yourself, peace over chaos, truth over comfort, progress over stagnation, healing over habits. Not everyone around you is ready or willing to do the same. People prefer the version of you that asks for less, expects less, challenges nothing, and stays predictable. When you evolve, you disrupt the story they created about you. You challenge assumptions, comfort, and expectations. Many will resist your change. Understand this. People can only meet you at the level of their own awareness. If they haven't yet learned the lessons you're learning, they won't understand why you're moving differently. Others will ask, why don't you respond like you used to? Not understanding that you've outgrown the version of yourself that reacted to everything. Some will say, you've changed, and expect you to feel guilty, not knowing how much pain, reflection, and courage it took for you to grow into the person you are becoming. They don't know every step you take toward your evolution is with intention. They don't see the nights questioning your purpose, the tears for the version of you that had to die so the new one could be born, the fears you had to silence, the boundaries you had to learn to set. They don't see the inner battles, feel the invisible wounds. They don't hear the private conversations you had with yourself, reminding your spirit that you deserve better. They judge the fruit without understanding the roots. But your growth is not a story you owe to anyone. You don't need approval to evolve. You don't need permission to heal. You don't need applause to rise. And you don't need to shrink yourself so others can feel comfortable. Growth often means walking away from old patterns, old environments, old versions of yourself. Some people will hold on to who you used to be because it fits their narrative more comfortably. They want you predictable so they can remain unchanged. But the price of staying the same is always greater than the price of evolving. Staying the same costs you your purpose, your peace, your potential. Growth may cost you people, but it rewards you with your true self. You are not obligated to be understood. You are obligated to become who you were created to be. Your growth will confuse some, but clarity was never promised to them. What matters is the alignment you feel within yourself. Growth is meant to liberate you, not explain itself to others. Your transformation speaks for you. The strength you've gained becomes visible. When the peace you carry becomes undeniable, the glow you radiate unexplainable. People who misunderstood your silence will witness the beauty from it. People who questioned your choices will see the wisdom. People who doubted your growth will stand in awe of who you've become. Not everyone will understand the chapters you're stepping into because they're written for you. Your growth is sacred, personal. You are evolving at the pace your spirit requires, shedding what no longer serves you, becoming stronger, wiser, softer, more grounded, more whole. Your growth is not a group project. It is a personal evolution, and as long as you understand it, that is enough. Arguing with critics steals time from your becoming. The more you grow, the more you will understand this. Every moment defending yourself to someone who has made up their mind is a moment stolen from your purpose, your peace, and your evolution. Critics rarely want clarity. They want control. They are not seeking truth. They are seeking reaction. And once you begin to rise, once you begin to reclaim your power, once you begin to walk differently than before, you will find that criticism becomes louder. Not because you're wrong, but because you're finally doing something right. People who are committed to misunderstanding you will not suddenly understand because you explained yourself one more time. A critic who doubts your abilities will not suddenly believe in you because you argued passionately. A person who chooses negativity will not suddenly choose positivity because you expressed your frustration. Your attention shifts from your path to their opinions. Your heartbeat rises. Your peace becomes unsettled. Your emotions get tangled. Suddenly, you're trying to prove something to someone who never mattered. You start explaining your motives, defending your decisions, justifying your growth when you don't owe any explanation to those who haven't walked in your shoes. Growth requires focus. Becoming requires intention. Evolution requires silence and discipline that critics will never understand. They want you distracted, triggered, tangled in their web of negativity because it stops you from moving forward. When you argue with them, you feed the very energy that tries to pull you backward. But when you walk away, choose peace, refuse to engage. That's when your power becomes undeniable. Critics thrive on reaction. When you ignore them, when you continue your journey without slowing down, you take away the fuel that feeds their judgment. Silence in the face of unfair criticism is not weakness. It is strategy. It is wisdom. Not every battle deserves your participation. Some battles exist to distract you from your purpose. People will criticize things they don't understand. They will criticize things they fear. They will criticize things they envy. They will criticize things they are too unwilling to pursue themselves. If you succeed, some will question it. If you fail, some will mock it. If you try, some will discourage you. If you grow, some will resent it. There is no version of your life where everyone applauds. And that is why arguing with critics is a waste of the limited time you are given on this earth. Imagine what you could build with the hours you lose arguing. Imagine how far you could go if you redirected that energy into your craft, dream, healing, discipline, purpose. Every second spent in conflict with someone committed to misunderstanding could be used to build the version of yourself your becoming is too precious to be paused every time someone has something negative to say. Critics speak loudly because they are afraid of their own silence. They fear the mirror that forces them to face themselves. It's easier to judge you than deal with their own stagnation. It is easier for them to criticize your courage than to confront their own fear. It is easier for them to talk about your journey than to take steps on their own. You stop taking their words personally. Arguing with critics keeps you small. It keeps you emotionally entangled. It keeps you mentally exhausted, who benefited from your insecurities. Your confidence will irritate those who relied on your silence. Your boundaries will anger those comfortable crossing them. And when they react, their criticism will not be thoughtful, it will be emotional. They are not criticizing you from a place of truth, but from a place of discomfort. The best response is not to argue. When you focus on becoming, you shift from reaction to creation. Your energy no longer gets wasted on what others think. You pour that energy into building the life aligned with your purpose. You begin to realize how little opinions matter in your destiny. Greatness was never achieved by those who paused to argue. The critics who doubted you will witness your transformation. The ones who questioned you will see the clarity behind your choices. The ones who mocked you will see the strength behind your silence. But by then you won't care, not out of arrogance, but because you'll be focused on the life you're creating. Arguing with critics steals time from your becoming. Protect your time, mind, purpose. Let your growth speak. Your mouth no longer has the energy. Keep walking, building, evolving. Let your progress be your proof. Misunderstanding is not your burden to fix. Your evolution is your real work. The sooner you understand this, the lighter your spirit becomes. You may have tried to explain yourself to people who never had the capacity, willingness, or intention to understand you. You may have exhausted yourself clarifying your heart, defending your choices, while ignoring the quiet truth whispering inside you. Your life's purpose is not to be understood, but to evolve. People misunderstand because they look at you through the lens of their experience, fears, assumptions. No matter how clearly you speak, how honestly you express yourself, they will frame your truth in the shape of their limitations. You cannot fix a misunderstanding built on someone else's unwillingness to see you clearly. You cannot control how they interpret your growth, decisions, boundaries, dreams. You cannot force someone to expand their vision just because you are expanding your life. Misunderstanding is a natural consequence of becoming. When you grow, you move differently. When you evolve, you prioritize differently. When you heal, you protect yourself differently. When you wake up to your worth, you choose differently. People who refuse to grow with you will misinterpret those changes. They will call your boundaries distance, your peace coldness, your confidence attitude, your healing selfishness. But none reflect who you are. They reflect how tightly they cling to the version of you that no longer exists. Some people do not want to understand your evolution because understanding it would require them to evolve too. It would require them to examine their habits, confront their comfort zones, and change the dynamics they controlled. It is easier to misunderstand you than to meet the new standard your growth creates. It is easier to label you than reflect on themselves. It is easier to judge your change than take responsibility for their stagnation. When you sense someone is committed to misunderstanding you, let them. Do not chase their approval. Do not shrink your truth. Do not pause your evolution. Your life is too precious to be spent explaining a journey they were never meant to understand. Your real work is becoming the version of yourself your soul knows you can be, and that requires energy, focus, discipline, and courage. It requires you to let go of the versions of yourself that played small for others. It requires you to release the fear of being misunderstood. Trust that the people meant for your life will understand, or at least respect, your growth without needing it explained. Evolution is not a performance. It is not a speech. It is not a debate. It is a quiet unfolding of your inner truth. It is the daily commitment to rise above who you were yesterday. It is the bravery to walk away from familiar pain and step into unfamiliar possibility. It is the grace you offer yourself when you stumble and the discipline when you get back up. You are responsible for your growth. And this responsibility will sometimes require letting people think whatever they need while you continue becoming who you were meant to become. Think about how much energy misunderstanding steals from you. All the times you replayed conversations in your mind trying to figure out where you went wrong. All the moments you tried to rewrite yourself in someone else's story. All the emotional labor you poured into convincing someone your heart was in the right place. That energy could have been used to strengthen your purpose, deepen your peace, nourish your spirit, or elevate your life. Misunderstanding is a distraction that keeps you trapped in explaining rather than expanding. The people who matter, aligned with your becoming, will not require endless explanations. They will feel your heart in your actions. They will notice your effort in your silence. They will respect your boundaries without demanding justification. These people will understand you not because you explain perfectly, but because they listen to understand, not to judge. Your evolution is too important to be slowed down by the noise of people who are not walking your path. Your real work is internal, sacred, unique to your soul. While the world debates who you should be, stay committed to who you are becoming. With time, your growth will speak louder than your explanations. Your evolution is calling, your growth is waiting, your future is being built in every moment you choose to rise instead of argue. Misunderstanding is not your burden. Your progress will threaten those who refuse to grow. Not because you've done something wrong, but because your evolution exposes their stagnation. Your progress forces them to see where they have settled, avoided, resisted, or given up. And rather than confronting their discomfort, some will project their fear onto you. When you elevate, it becomes a mirror, one that reflects the truths others don't want to acknowledge. Your discipline highlights their excuses. Your effort highlights their laziness. Your courage highlights their fear. Your vision highlights their lack of direction. Instead of being inspired by your growth, they may feel threatened. They may question your motives, criticize your decisions, diminish your accomplishments, or try to make you feel guilty for rising. None of their reactions speak to your worth or the legitimacy of your progress. They speak only to the parts of themselves they are unwilling to grow. Some people want you to remain the version of yourself they first met, not because they love that version, but it makes them feel comfortable. It keeps the dynamic predictable. It ensures they don't have to grow with you, learn with you, or elevate alongside you. Your progress disrupts that comfort. It challenges the unspoken agreement they made with themselves. Staying the same was good enough. Rather than changing, they try to pull you back to where they are. They may say things like, "You've changed," as if that is something to be ashamed of. They may try to make you feel like progress is arrogance, elevation is betrayal, distance is disrespect. But what they are truly saying is this: I am not ready to face my potential. You cannot dim your growth to protect someone from the truth they refuse to confront. You cannot shrink to a comfort zone you have outgrown. You cannot stop rising because someone else is afraid of heights. Your progress is your responsibility, not their comfort. They will be inspired by it. Celebrate your wins, support your elevation, even when it challenges them to rise higher themselves. They will not cling to the past version of you because they are committed to growing into the best version of themselves. These people will walk with you, learn with you, rise with you. They understand someone else's light does not dim their own. But the ones who refuse to grow, they will misunderstand your progress as a personal attack. Your decision to heal may feel like rejection to someone who benefits from your brokenness. Your new boundaries may feel like betrayal to someone who relied on your lack of them. Your peace may feel like distance to someone comfortable with your chaos. Your clarity may feel like judgment to someone who lives in confusion. And your growth may feel like abandonment to someone who refuses to leave the place you once shared. Your progress is meant to challenge the world, not because you are trying to threaten anyone, but because the nature of growth is to create movement, and movement creates contrast. When you rise, the landscape changes, relationships shift, connections transform. Some people will step closer, some will step away, some will stretch to meet the new standard. Progress demands that you choose yourself even when others do not understand, even when they misinterpret your intentions, even when they resent your evolution, even when they accuse you of changing because you are the truth. Your progress is not the threat. Their refusal to evolve is. Your success is not the enemy. Their fear of their own potential is. Your movement is not the problem. Their resistance to change is. Until they confront their own stagnation, your progress will always feel like pressure to them. Do not let anyone guilt you back into the version of yourself you worked hard to grow out of. Do not let anyone shame you for choosing healing, clarity, discipline, peace, and purpose. Do not feel obligated to slow your pace because someone else chose not to take the first step. You are not responsible for staying behind, so others feel better about staying still. Let your progress continue to unfold. Let your growth speak. Let your journey rise. Those meant to walk with you will rise. Those threatened will fall away. Both part of your evolution. There comes a moment when you understand peace is not just a gentle feeling, it is survival. It is clarity, strength, and too precious to hand over to people who built opinions about you on assumptions, insecurities, or their own understanding. You reach a point where you see that trying to correct every misunderstanding, every rumor, every careless judgment is like trying to chase the wind, exhausting, endless, and pointless. Because the more you give energy to explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, the more you drain the very force you need to keep becoming who you are destined to be. There is a cost to constantly defending yourself, and that cost is your peace. Peace that could have been used to heal, to grow, to create, to rise. Peace that could have been the soil for a new vision or the quiet space your soul needed to breathe. Peace is the foundation on which your future stands, and when you sacrifice it just to adjust someone else's assumptions, you bargain away your own power. You trade your focus for fragments of approval that were never meant to sustain you. You must understand something deep. People do not see you as you are, when it is protection of your spirit. And if you spend your life bending yourself to fix their misunderstandings, you begin living in their story. When someone decides what they think you are, they build a narrative, even if wrong. They often hold on to it because it fits the world they've created inside themselves. You cannot grow while constantly explaining yourself. You cannot elevate while continuously stopping to justify your steps. You cannot protect your inner world while trying to convince someone of the truth they didn't want to see in the first place. Growth requires energy, quiet, focused, sacred energy. Giving that energy away to defend yourself is like pouring clean water into hands never open to receive it. People who truly know you do not need explanations. People who truly love you do not demand defenses. And people who truly support you will not build stories about you in your absence. They will ask, seek to understand, hold space. But those who rush to assume, to judge, to label, they reveal more about their character than yours. That revelation is your freedom. When someone shows you that they prefer assumptions over truth, let that be your signal to guard your peace, not argue innocence. Your peace is power. the force that keeps you steady when the world tries to pull you into noise. It is the anchor that reminds you who you are. There will always be people who misunderstand the path you walk because they never had the courage to walk their own. Your discipline will irritate the undisciplined. Your clarity will confuse the lost. Your boundaries will offend those who benefited from your lack of them. And your peace, your shining, steady, unshakable peace, will threaten anyone whose life is ruled by chaos. That is not your burden to fix. That is not your responsibility to soothe. Your responsibility is your evolution, your inner world, the quiet progress no one sees until the results are undeniable. Protecting your peace means choosing your battles wisely, understanding that emotional reactions are expensive, and the more you mature, the more you realize you cannot afford to give your peace away. Protecting your peace means walking away from conversations that drain you, letting people think what they want, because their thoughts do not shape your destiny. Their opinions do not alter your path. Their assumptions do not define your truth. There is a kind of strength that comes from knowing who you are so deeply that the world can no longer shake you. When you reach that self-ownership, you stop rushing to correct people. You stop trying to control their perceptions. You stop offering your energy to minds not meant to understand your journey. Instead, you pour that energy into your healing, future, purpose. You become selective with your responses and generous with your silence. You realize the loudest proof of your character is in the way you live, not argue. And so you protect your peace again and again, because you know that your peace is what allows you to move with grace, even when misunderstood. Your peace keeps your vision clear, even when others create illusions. Your peace keeps you grounded, focused, and aligned with your path. Everything you are becoming requires that peace. So let them assume, talk, misunderstand. While they speak, you grow. While they guess, you build. While they create stories, you create a life that needs no explanation. There is a moment in life when they feel the weight of the world's expectations pressing on their shoulders. A moment when every voice around them sounds louder than their own. A moment when they realize they have spent too much of their life trying to fit into shapes that were never designed for them. Trying to be agreeable, acceptable, likable, anything but true. When the exhaustion of pretending becomes too heavy, seeds of transformation take root. The truth is simple, but often painful. As long as you are seeking approval, you are living a life that is not fully yours. Approval chains you to other people's definitions, timelines, limits. It is a quiet prison built out of your fear of disappointing. You shrink to avoid criticism. You silence to avoid conflict. You hold back dreams so they won't seem too big or too unrealistic to those who cannot envision them. Approval is unstable. It shifts with moods, with seasons, but honoring yourself, honoring your truth, your calling, that is stable enough to build a life upon. Honoring yourself means listening to the quiet voice within you that has been whispering the same truth for years. The voice you silenced because others told you it was unrealistic. The voice that knew who you were before you learned how to doubt yourself. When you honor yourself, you give that voice permission to speak. You give it room to breathe. You give it authority over the noise. The most powerful transformation does not come from proving yourself to others. It comes from proving you are worthy of living in alignment with who you are. It comes from realizing you no longer need applause to feel valid, nor agreement to feel anchored. When you stop seeking approval, you make decisions rooted in authenticity instead of fear. You choose paths that nourish your soul, not paths that impress the crowd. You set boundaries that protect your peace, even if they frustrate those who benefited from your lack of them. You prioritize your mental and emotional well-being. Even if the world calls you selfish, you will feel the shift inside the first time you say no without guilt. You will feel it when you stop apologizing for wanting more. Stop over-explaining yourself. Stop seeking permission. Stop asking people to validate dreams they were never meant to understand. This shift is quiet but undeniable. It is the moment you stop abandoning yourself in the name of being liked. Seeking approval is rooted in survival. Asking others, "Am I enough?" But honoring yourself is rooted in truth. Answering, "Yes, I am." Approval keeps you small because it forces you to adapt to someone else's comfort zone. Honoring yourself makes you expand because it demands that you step into your own. They preferred you when you were silent, agreeable, predictable, when your wings were folded. Because your growth forces them to confront their own stagnation, honor yourself anyway. Honor the part of you that survived seasons no one knows about. Honor the version of you that kept moving even when the world gave you reasons to stop. Honor the dreamer in you who never died. Honor the healer in you who kept mending your spirit every time life tried to break it. Honor the fighter in you who refused to surrender your purpose. Great transformation happens when you begin to choose yourself without shame, when you lift yourself out of the shadows of other people's judgments, when you stop negotiating your worth and start living like someone who deserves joy, rest, success, love, depth, and peace. You do not need a committee to approve your destiny. You do not need applause to pursue your calling. You do not need consensus to follow the path that belongs only to you. Transformation is about becoming someone honest, someone whole, unfiltered, unafraid to stand in their truth, even if it means standing alone for a while. It is about aligning your actions with your essence, not with expectations. Once you taste that alignment, experience the freedom that comes from honoring yourself, you will never again beg for permission to be who you already are. Understand the world benefits most when you live from your authenticity. Your purpose is too important to be reduced by approval. Your spirit is too vast to be squeezed into small expectations. Your journey is too sacred to be dictated by opinions that change like seasons. Honoring yourself is the commitment to walk your path with courage, even when the path is misunderstood, even when the steps are lonely, even when the outcome is uncertain. Something remarkable happens when you choose this way of living. You stop performing, pleasing, bending to fit places that demand you break. You start becoming, rising. You start breathing in your own rhythm again. And the world begins to see a version of you that was always there, just buried beneath other people's demands. Approval may give you momentary comfort, but honoring yourself gives you lasting freedom. The birthplace of meaningful transformation, that is where your evolution begins, where your real life begins, where you step into the fullness of who you were meant to be. Let them think whatever they want. Your destiny does not belong to their imagination. Your future is shaped by your discipline, healing, courage, and willingness to grow beyond the noise. Keep becoming better. Life will meet you at the level of your effort.